Barack Obama, his biographer,
Wait,
posted
hang on.
what? What,
Am I
Eric?
missing the? Are you gonna link this story to the Blue Jays, or is that
No,
completely different? Okay,
I just
I
said it's
wasn't sure if
baseball
you were.
season. I
Okay.
already forget what I said, but it's baseball season. Barack Obama. It says, "quote I make love to men daily, but in the imagination." Given that this is the former president and how people surrounding all the ex-presidents seem to disappear, considering the chef that died lately, we're going to be very litigious here and make sure we're quoting everything properly. But this is from a biographer of Barack Obama. The New York Post posted this. I think it came out from, it wasn't Axios. It was somebody else who reported it first. Maybe they'll mention it. But biographer for Barack Obama has exposed a letter that Obama wrote to a girlfriend when he was 21 and in college, so before he was married. And it's wild, Eric. Let's get your reaction from this. Former President Barack Obama wrote of his androgynous mind. Okay, we can skip that stuff because they're just giving it away, their lead. 1982 is the year. He's 21, he's in college. He's writing a letter to his ex-girlfriend. The biographer's name is David Garrow. He gave a long and winded interview. Okay, this is the quote from Obama that everybody's talking about, and it's wild. In regard to homosexuality, I must say that I believe this is an attempt to remove oneself from the present, a refusal perhaps to perpetuate the endless farce of earthly life. You see, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination, Obama, then 21, wrote to Alex McNear in November 1982. So I'll reread it again. There's more, though. I must say that I believe, in regard to homosexuality, that this is an attempt to remove oneself from the present, a refusal perhaps to perpetuate the endless farce of earthly life. You see, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination. And there is his lovely wife, Michelle. And there's his ex-girlfriend, I guess, this Alex lady. My mind, he goes on, quote, my mind is androgynous to a great extent, and I hope to make it more so until I can think in terms of people, not women as opposed to men. But in returning to the body, I see that I have been made a man, and physically in life, I choose to accept that contingency. So, Eric, this means to me, in my completely legal opinion, as in I'm legally allowed to have this opinion and I'm not feeling suicidal, that he says I make love to men daily in my imagination, and he kind of wishes that there wasn't a difference between men and women, as explained by him saying, I like to think of terms of people, not women as opposed to men, and my mind is androgynous, but in returning to the body and physically in life, I choose to accept that I'm a man by contingency. So he has gay fantasies. He kind of wishes that we didn't have to separate people into men and women because he's attracted to both, and that he's accepting that he's a man and that he can't really be both, so that it wouldn't be weird. Because if he could be both at the same time or nothing in between, non binary, one might say, then it'd be more normal for him to be attracted to men as well as women. So I think, Eric, in my respected opinion in politics, I've been in politics 68 years, that I think Barack Obama is saying he wishes he was kind of non-binary, even though that probably didn't exist back then, because it would be more normalized that he's attracted to men and women. What are your thoughts on this? What are you taking from these quotes?
Well, my first question is why right? What's going on? I mean, we had 8 years of Obama, we had Trump, we got Biden. Why is this happening right now? That should obviously be the number one question. Why is this an issue at this particular juncture? Are they going to try to play it to their advantage when they maybe prop up Michelle Obama? But secondly, I don't want to get too conspiratorial or tinfoil hat or whatever you want to call it, but I mean, this makes perfect sense, right? Not only are we seeing this, how 30 years later, 31, however long ago it was, we're seeing this, and they're obviously trying to make it regular. So maybe he was ahead of the curve on that. It's just completely demonic and satanic, and this is just something that they do, right? Like, the weirdo Baphomet statue that has, it's a man, it's a woman, or whatever. I don't know. They're just weird, Satanist, creepy people, and it's par for the course, bro. Like, I don't know what to make of it. The most important question is, why is this happening right now? And I would pose that to you. What is it? It's election season, but is this the right wing conspiracy nut jobs coming out to bash Democrats? What is the purpose of this right now?
I can't say that I'm sure, but obviously you're right. This is either to distract from something, or it is to make them look better in the eyes of the leftists who say, "Oh, that's great," but "Oh, you're not straight. That's wonderful."
So
But
maybe, I'm thinking about, like, maybe this is just right. Every other time they pretend they're going to do something to Hunter Biden, and then they just indict Donald Trump. Like, maybe this is just a diversion.
Yeah, the Hunter stuff is interesting too. I still don't think anything's going to happen with that. If people didn't hear,
No.
Hunter Biden is getting an investigation to him from the Department of Justice, which I think will just be, let's focus on how bad Hunter is and leave Joe alone. But let's read a bit more of this, see if it gives us anything else. The author does say something a little funny at the end. McNair, who dated Obama during his year at Occidental College in L.A., later redacted the salacious paragraphs, which the Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Garrow hunted down and included in his tome, Rising Star. The letter is currently owned by Emory University, which doesn't permit it to be photographed or removed. Instead, Garrow's friend Harvey Clare transcribed the paragraphs by hand and sent them to the author. I think that's
so it could
a
just be
generic
fake.
photo.
It could, in theory,
It could
all
be.
just be completely fake.
In theory, yes.
And
Clare
also,
provided the redacted portion of the letter to the Post.
But also, is it maybe we're reading just way too much into it, and he's a weirdo, and he always has been a weirdo, and all the jokes of Michelle actually being a man are true, and here we are. I don't know. I cannot stand these people. It's so disgusting. They're all so disgusting.
Here's the historian and biographer Garrow said there was nothing unusual about Obama's youthful musing. So he's basically saying, don't kill me. This is normal. He says, quote, I'm a historian, not a psychologist, but I think it's, quote, public record news that a vast majority of human beings have sexual fantasies, exclamation point. So he's saying it's normal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A sexual fantasy is way different from just wishing there were no men and women, or wanting to be like. Look, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but there's, maybe as a little boy you would fantasize about Britney Spears or something like that. That's completely different from saying I wish men and women didn't exist. And
yes.
Let's stop trying to put those into the same box, because
yeah, we're talking about a 21-year-old man in college having fantasies about being with men and wanting to be, and he's saying his mind is basically androgynous, no different between male and female, and he wishes that reality reflected that men and women weren't different, essentially, and that for now I'm just gonna accept that I'm a man for now. Maybe in 50 years or 40 years we will stop recognizing the differences between men and women. Almost as if, Eric, I think one more thing. I think you could take this as a little bit of a window. I mean, he's 21 years old. Obviously, your opinion has changed vastly. He goes to law school. He has kids. He has a wife, and he does all this stuff. And your opinions change, but this is still an adult person having these thoughts about. I mean, like we were saying, is it normal? Like, it would be more normal for him to just have gay fantasies, right? Like, it'd be more normal for a gay guy to have who isn't out of the closet to have gay fantasies. But for somebody to have a fantasy about being and saying that their mind is androgynous and they wish the world reflected that in whatever terms he used, that's pretty weird. That's pretty off kilter belief system or thought process that a tiny percentage of people have. Gen Z a lot more, so they say, but it's so tiny that maybe he's brought that through his life now, and that's why we're moving in this direction. A lot of people think the Obama still control a lot of stuff. He still goes out and he still supports candidates left, right, center. Stacey Abrams, not really Hillary, Joe Biden a little bit, but there are candidates that he has gone out and supported. So it's not like he's not in the politics game, and people do still have rumors that a lot of his people are still in places where they're pushing and pulling stuff. So maybe this is something he's carried through his whole adult life, and he has wanted to make it a point, for the rest of the world to conform to him, because that's what we see from these types of people right now. Let me go to any bathroom I want. Let me get married to anyone I want, anywhere. Pride parade, nudity, anywhere, anytime. Books for your children, drag queens for your children. This is sort of, in line with what we're seeing now today, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. It's the exact same. Like, it's almost as look, and you have to give him credit, right? First, I will give him credit for at least acknowledging that at that point in time, like, I will, as sad as it is, I will have to acknowledge that I'm just a man, okay? Which can't be said, it's not the same right now. Right now, people get these delusions, and not only are they having their delusions, but they're forcing you to capitulate to them as well. So kudos to him on that, for at least still. And also, you have to give them credit for just sticking with it for so long. If we want to go conspiratorial, and they've been working on this for so long, and he's probably just a cog in the machine that's been working even longer than him. And I use the example of recreational cannabis in California specifically. When you do the timeline, when you look at how that actually happened, is largely funded by George Soros. Way back in the late 80s, they started that. So they work and they work and they work and they work for decades and decades and decades. And they don't care what you think. They don't care that you don't want them to mutilate their child. They don't care about anything. And that's the difference between this weirdo establishment who will run roughshod all over anybody and they do not care, versus the more common sense, right-wing type of people who, for the most part, and it's getting a little bit better now, but for the most part, they will constantly apologize and backtrack. We saw it sort of with Neo for a little bit, and then he reversed the apology. But the point is, they get so scared that they will constantly backtrack. Whereas these people, if this is true, if this is in line with something that they've been working on for decades, then that's why they win, is because they do not quit. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Right. I wouldn't think that he would be part of working on it for decades. I think it's something that he might have. I'm not going to say that he does. Might have believed, and he goes along with it. But he's pretty OG on these thoughts, Eric. So who knows what's happening?
No,
Who knows if
I
this is
think,
a distraction?
But in the grand scheme, if you want to talk about like John Money or all these weirdo philosophers from, he could just be in the middle of it. Like that, him in 1982 could have been them already 2 decades in. I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? It's outside of this. This is actually. Let me leave it here, and we'll go on to the next one. But this is actually one of the least disgusting things that these people have done, right? Like, these are the same people who are going to tell you that, climate change is going to destroy the world, and sea levels are rising, and then buy the beachfront property, and that's the least disgusting thing these people have done, in my opinion. One of the least. Right? It's a long list. We can maybe do a deep dive on the Obama family, the Clinton, these recent establishmentarians, and this is, it's a drop in the bucket.
Bring Anthony Weiner on the show. This could be a distraction from this personal chef that died on the Obama's compound, drowned in a pond while paddleboarding. I mean, this is all opinion, Your Honor, conjecture, hearsay. I don't know anything, really. I'm just a guy talking to a camera right now.
Yeah,
but
that's a great point. Like, think about Kevin Spacey, right? They accuse him. Was it Kevin Spacey? I mean, you make a great point. It's like, oh, I'm gay, and then it just sort of goes away. Like Kevin Spacey, you know what I mean? So you might be onto something there as well.
We all know, Eric, that paddleboarding is in a ponds are one of the most lethal things that anyone can do in the world, especially when they're in shape young chefs, young in quotation marks, maybe. Did a shark with a laser beam attached to his head come out and get him? Did someone give him the old heave ho? Did somebody shoot a blow dart at him who's been training for this for 30 years? Maybe a shoe to the head, Eric. What I'm saying is nobody knows quite what happened, but you can be assured that at this point in time, there is a distraction to be put afoot. A distraction to be put afoot when when they're going to give up that Barack Obama had gay thoughts and androgyny mixed into his mind in college, then that's a sacrifice to get rid of something else. When Hunter Biden um, plea deal goes away and we learn about his secret dinners with Joe in restaurants, when that stuff's being given up, it's got to be something else that's being taken away.
Turn it up, Jordan.